Hey guys, Reckoning here, and welcome to the bonus episode of the Shizune arc. We aren't going to be reading any fanfiction here or reading any bonus scenes. This video is my thoughts on the arc in its entirety and to mention something extra. Or at least I intend to do this. This will be a lengthy video, but since you can see how long it was before you clicked on it, you know that already. I apologize if I get boring, but this was the best way I could write it. Yeah, this is scripted. Now, as I previously stated, I would like to go to Yamaku. I'm not disabled, but the people in Yamaku are really nice people, much unlike the people I deal with in my high school. Yes, I'm on summer break, but when your days consist of recording and editing videos set in a modern-day high school, memories of your own will come to you every now and again. The scenery around Yamaku looks really nice, and I enjoy quiet and serene places every now and again. Who doesn't? COD fans, most likely. What? I didn't say anything. My fantasies aside, let's get down to brass tacks here. This video is supposed to be talking about the Shizune arc, not how I wish my life went. Observe this picture. Now, if this generated any feeling of sadness, raise your virtual hand. It's okay, don't be shy. Alrighty, now with that out of the way, let's get to why I've shown this, other than the fact that it's part of the arc I should be discussing. For the moment, let's put ourselves in Hisao's shoes. He spent pretty much the entire time he's known Shizune to get to know her, because I forced him to. Well, didn't I? Regardless, let's assume that of his own volition, Hisao chooses Shizune. He's been to the council meeting after council meeting, worked his ass off for 2 festivals. Hell, he even learned sign language just to communicate with her. He didn't have to do that. Where the hell was I? Damn it, I messed up! Right, he didn't have to join the council. He didn't have to learn sign language, but he did. For her. Now, what I don't understand is that after he's done all this, when she's sitting on the steps with a school bag sitting next to her, the stuffed cat he won by her hanging out of it, why does this make him smile? His girlfriend has declared that she wants to be away from pretty much everybody, and that she's made nothing but mistakes her whole life, and jerk around you and Misha and he's smiling? Damn, Hisao, you can really be a dick. On a lighter note, the good ending is really nice. The friends are together once again, and they graduate together, promising to meet again one day. Sometime before the reunion, hopefully. Hisao knows that he doesn't have forever to live, so he wants to live as much as he can in the time he has. He wants to make Shizune happy. According to the epilogue I found, he does, and the friends reunite and are never too far away. Hell, Misha and Hisao work together. Now, besides these endings, I've noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. Is it just me, or does it seem that the story takes too many sudden changes? Especially regarding Hisao and Shizune's relationship? It takes until Act 2 for Hisao to ask if she wants to be his girlfriend, but I suppose that's fine. Then, in the course of one act, there are 2 possible sex scenes. They jump from just starting their relationship to get in the chair. It also seems that they don't really behave like you would expect a couple to behave, which I suppose is explained by the fact that elections are approaching, and Shizune wants to make sure that her replacement is fit for the job, along with making the posters, ballot boxes, ballot slips, and all the fixins'. If the council was more staffed, it wouldn't be a big deal, but nobody really wants to be in the council. Yeah, nobody really wants to be in the council. The only reason Shizune is leaving is because she's graduating. As her father said, it was her dream to be a high school student council president. Yeah, it's an odd aspiration, but it's what she wanted. And speaking of Jigoro, he's a dick. Now, with that out of the way, back to what really matters. But seriously, he wondered why she never wanted to speak to him. Really? Think about it. He hired tutors and translators, but did she talk to him? No, she didn't. Why? Did it ever cross his mind that he himself never tried to talk to her? If he wanted to communicate with his daughter, he should have tried at least once. But did he? Of course not. And you can read about that in his autobiography. In the time since I recorded the Shizune arc, it's been over a month. I wanted to have the entire arc done before I started uploading it, and even so, I started it 2 weeks after I got out of school. In fact, I finished recording the arc only 3 days before the LP started, and in that time, I recorded the second arc I'm doing, which is The Secret. I must say, after really experiencing that arc, I'm not 100% sure Shizune is my all-time favorite character now. It's surprising how much difference an arc can make when you really read it, like I had to do when I recorded it. To my dismay, I was supposed to experience a feel at a few points in the story, but I never did. Although my reaction after the arc ended surprised me. I expected to be able to say my outro, announce upcoming events and the like, but I was speechless. All I could say was, it's over. That being said, I'll secretly be taking a break in recording to compose myself for the third arc, which is also a secret. This next part is basically a summary of the entire arc, give or take a few things. This wasn't written by me, but it's so well done that I had to include it. This is the part about Shizune. I might include other parts for the other girls. Anyway, Shizune is the only girl whose H scenes are counterintuitive. They make more sense in hindsight than in the narrative flow. Take, for instance, the trip to her house with Hisao and Misha in tow. There's Lily and Akira on temporary stay, Hideki and Shizune's dad, and of course Misha. There's an air of Alice in Wonderland about this place. Everyone seems to be doing as they please, conversations tend to become absurd when you least expect it, and that bear man is like a male Queen of Hearts. I'd call this the least expected place for any erotic development. It's not somewhere where you can feel comfortable and relaxed, or get in the mood for necking with your girlfriend. Quite the opposite. And yet, this is Shizune's home turf. What doesn't work for Hisao might work for her. While it's never said to be so, it would appear she and her dad have a history of butting heads. He doesn't approve of her taking over the council, not because it might be more than she can handle, but because he deems it puny and insignificant, a waste of his time. His negative opinions have shaped Shizune's take-charge personality, to the point of challenging any of his negative opinions just to prove him wrong. In this reverse psychology, his friction with Hisao is making the latter's importance go up, so much so that she feels like picking up the challenge instantly. Besides, Hisao has been around her long enough to build a bit of self-righteousness. He's not taking the verbal abuse lying down, but trading blow for blow. Shizune might not get the particulars, but it's clear her boyfriend is telling her dad off. For the said reasons, this is pleasing her mightily. She may not have a clear idea of how she wants to reward Hisao for his good behavior when she signs him to follow her inside the house, but the iced water incident sure gives her an idea. He's been doing good work with the council. He's even picked up sign language to talk to her. He has to become her boyfriend. Why not give him what he must surely crave, but only when, where, and how she wants? He looked about ready to take the initiative earlier. Let him simmer a bit before gulping him whole. Now, tying Hisao's hands isn't just a domination game. It's also cutting his means of communication, i.e. denying him the possibility of objection. This is entirely Shizune, giving him a tightrope sexual experience and the door's just closed, not locked. Anyone can walk in unannounced. Shizune couldn't possibly hear, and she's facing away from the door. Hisao can't signal anyone approaching either. All he can do is sit there and take what she's giving, gratefully. Because he is grateful, somewhere along the line, he started wanting her too. He's grasped the idea it has to be on her terms, or not at all, somewhere in the past, because he's not feeling used at all, just very elated it's finally happening. You might say, why am I bringing this up again? The reason is that I finally arranged my arguments for the case of Shizune sticking it to her dad. Wait, I got an idea. Let's replay the scene inside the house from a slightly different angle. Hit it, Jerry. Hi there, Elaine. No, wait, it's Shizune. What? No, I didn't rescue Hideki. Don't worry. Unless Boy George sweeps through the garden, he's safe. Yeah, no points for style. So I think you wanted to talk, don't you? Don't want to? You're in a bad mood. Oh, it's about Misha's hair. I think the exterior is matching the interior more. No, I don't think she looks like a tomboy, not any more than you. Who am I kidding? Look at that chest. Listen, if you miss her drills so much, grow some yourself. See, you're not so hot on this. What do you mean I talk like your father? You talk like your father. There, you just did. And don't badmouth my color coordination, you tomboy. What's that now? Want to make more friends? Maybe a little less bitching would help. Hey, watch what you're doing with that water glass. You're quite soft, you know that? Nice pores. Just don't overdo the face peeling. Want me to get off? Sure. Tell you what, I'm beat. I think I need to lay down in my room. Hi there again. I see you followed me. Yeah, welcome to my room. No, it's your guest room, silly. What was that? Oh, nothing. Well, you and Misha barged in my room before. Of course it made me nervous. You make me nervous. You always drag me somewhere anyway. Anyway, that was a nice restaurant yesterday. Oh, it wasn't your favorite? Say what? The chair's too hard. Here, let's switch. Want me to close my eyes? Why, kissing. Kissing is nice. No, hey, don't tie my hands. How am I supposed to talk to you with no hands? Oh, we're not going to talk. No, wait, Elaine. Oh, fuck. Shizune, have you been watching porn again? Is this what girls call foreplay these days? Thank you, Jerry. And the scene continues with Shizune playing fireman up and down the pole. That's mighty bold for a 17-year-old. Is she really 17? Unless you're in a strip joint or she's a hooker. Yes, I can buy she's role-playing here. Although, dear scriptwriter, don't leave your safety catch on the Misha consolation route. It's like you expect us to go that way first. In fact, the two safety catches, one after another. Herp derp, Shizune's inexperience, and Hisao took her maidenhead quickly. Nice backpedaling, man. Sorry, ever heard of show don't tell? So she's only pretending to be more mature. It's a tough sell for me, but let's say I believe you. But you've bludgeoned us with her way of doing business. Gamble and gain. She gambles almost anything. Food, taking a break, paying the bill, information. Unless she stakes something in the game, she won't play. So tell me, what is at stake this time? What came under fire from her father? The student council and her friends, which are one and the same thing, sadly. He dissed her doing things the Shizune way. What is at stake again? Father's authority. Well, screw him. Right, this person had two questions. Why is Shizune putting out only twice with Hisao? And two, why is Shizune doing it bareback both times? For the first question, they have a number of arguments. They framed it like this: Shizune knows how to fuck. Citation needed. Shizune positively likes Hisao. Their first time around the world was mutually satisfying. So why so little sugar, honey? And Shizune utterly controls their first act, down to the depth of penetration and setting the rhythm. She goes in without much foreplay, unless there's some going on in her mind, which we can't know anyway. She takes it all in one sitting. Sorry, couldn't help myself. There's this, but you can read it in a number of ways. In a short while, she starts sweating, which might look like she's crying. Nope, it's just sweat. On their second act, she aggressively negotiates her position with Hisao, surrendering the top for bottom on a sudden impulse. Shizune genuinely liking Hisao is established at the end of the Tanabata festival, when she gets all flustered over his confession. It's one of the rare moments of Shizune losing control over her emotions. Afterward, she hides behind her businesslike attitude, but it becomes obvious she started telling Hisao more about herself than she ever told Misha, who is a very interested listener. She has no reservations in telling him all her thoughts, because his opinion about her has become paramount. She wants him to understand her. For someone like Shizune, that's a big vote of confidence. Finally, the mutually pleasurable sexual experience is pretty evident, not just in her mood during the whole act, but in his mood as well. Unless Hisao has a hidden submissive streak, he's taking the whole situation exceptionally well. He's even grateful his ailing heart isn't misbehaving and breaking the mood, and he never, ever complains about it afterward. He's accepted her entirely, and she did the same for him. So why would two lovers with a successful first experience not carry on enjoying this newfound union? Well, it's because Shizune doesn't want to. Shizune is all about effort and reward. Hisao isn't going anywhere. She can let him have some more whenever she thinks she can extract a satisfying reward out of it. Oh, I almost forgot something. Shizune's lovemaking is both times noisy. One could argue that a deaf girl has no notion of what sound is, but she does. Remember her loud knuckle paw used to attract attention? She knows. The only reasonable excuse is that she doesn't know how much noise she's making. In Hisao's own words, she's making the chair legs rap against the floor loud enough to be heard from the hall at home. In the council room, the table they're on creaks and thuds, once again loud enough to attract attention from the outer hall. In my best interpretation, she just doesn't care. Her sexual adventures are a declaration of independence. Why shouldn't they be loud? Let the whole world hear it. Back to the regular program. Why isn't Shizune using any protection any of the 2 times she beds Hisao? Besides being a mighty funny question of a bunch of VN characters, it's one of the signs that Katawa Shoujo takes itself quite seriously. Now we get to Misha and her apparent lack of precautions. From her own statement, we know she's never been with a boy before. That says exactly nothing about previous female partners, though. Is she planning to sink Hisao's future with Shizune? Is she planning to sink Hisao's future with Shizune the nasty way? Your boyfriend got me pregnant? She acted on impulse and with no precautions. The fact is, she almost turned a bad situation into something much worse. There's something else going on as well, and I'll get to it in a minute. So, intelligent, analytical, driven overachiever Shizune, compulsive gambler in search of the extra thrill, just forgot to take any precautions despite having the initiative both times? Sure, also the Brooklyn Bridge is up for sale and the moon is made out of green cheese. With her type of personality, I'd expect her to both take the pill and make Hisao wear a condom. And if you're thinking something silly like she's just showing how much she trusts him, get real. That's not how it works. She's just throwing reason to the wind in the most daring gamble she came up with. Even if the unimaginable happens, it's still something she can chuck at her father. The boyfriend you don't approve of got me in the family way. Also, he's incredible in bed. Choke on it, old man. Right, so what's the deal with Misha practically offering to have sex with Hisao, in between his 2 acts with Shizune? It seems simple. With Shizune not giving him any, where does his unspent sexual energy go? That's right, into bonking Misha. On that path, Shizune finds out he found a release valve, and it's all her fault. The story's pretty simple. Since Hisao came between Misha and Shizune, Misha started fearing losing them both. The school year is nearing its end. Separation is inevitable. Misha already lost Shizune once, where the latter refused to become her lover. Now she doesn't want to lose her as a friend, too. Hisao pretty much nails it here. You can only be Shizune's friend if she wants you to. She's just not very good with people. Befriending and drafting are almost synonymous to her. Alas, knowing what's right doesn't help at all. Now that Misha isn't indispensable anymore to Shizune, not even as an interpreter, the frustrations accumulated in years of Shizune's being voluntary hostage tend to surface. The girls try to talk it off, but Misha gets into a shouting match with Shizune, and afterwards, whenever one of them wants to apologize, the other's not in the mood. Misha apparently decides it's her fault and pulls out of the entanglement, trying to pursue her teaching career again. Shizune just cannot pretend nothing happened. None of her attempts works. In the end, she gives in to doubt and remorse and decides to cut Hisao loose. She just tells him to go, and go away he does. So, was he being a dick, or was I not reading it well enough? On the route with no consolation for Misha, things happen much the same way, except Misha is more malleable. Hisao's plea has a better effect. I'm still not seeing what goes on so radically right on this path, but what the hey, friendship conquers all. What is Hisao to Shizune? Well, he's shaped up into what we call a true friend. He's the guy who made her laugh several times. He's the guy who accepts her defects, but he's also the guy who opposed her opinion when he didn't like it. He didn't preach to her, just spoke his mind without fear. He's a collaborator, not a flunky. He brings a different perspective to complement her own. While he's not the most social person, his social skills come in handy when the Shizune approach doesn't work. He treats everyone nicely, starting with classmates and ending with Misha or Lily. There may not be much love lost between Shizune and Lily, but they're still family. And in a convoluted way, Shizune's constant criticism is sort of care. As her boyfriend, Hisao never asked, let alone forced, Shizune to pull away from people he didn't like. There's plenty of boyfriends who do that. And there's plenty of boyfriends who want their relationship to change after their first night together. Hisao kept it all private, not objecting once to the silent treatment applied to their first sexual experience. He voluntarily shouldered each task she put her mind to, including the campaign for a new student council. So, why no sex until the new council affairs wrapped up? For one thing, this was a long effort that didn't go to her liking, what with the low public interest and comments about starting to worry too soon about things a long way off. She didn't allow herself a respite, and as a consequence, neither did the rest of the council. In the end, a new president and vice president was elected. For another thing, Shizune wants to make it a little festive, like a going-away party. Everyone's a little worried about the school year ending and having to part with friends. What better way to say goodbye than you giving your boyfriend a good time, right? But the act does take an impromptu break. I think Shizune forgot to pace herself here and almost raced past Hisao to an early climax. She did ask him how come he's much bolder than on the roof or back at her house. It probably dawned on her that it's not much of a treat if you finish first, so she feigned a slip and broke off, which is when both idiots remember to check the damn door lock. So she taunts him to take the initiative for the second half. Not that she doesn't help him a little, like a helping hand or both. For a deaf person, Shizune does have an interesting focus on hand play. She traced her fingers over his hands the previous time. Whether that's symbolic or not is anyone's guess. Anyway, this time they reach climax together, and anyone except Super Shizune would enjoy a little afterglow. Not her. She jumps straight into taunting him about how fortunate it is that Misha had to be somewhere else. She's setting him up for a bit of spying on Misha, which they will do together anyway, a little later this evening, fibbing about her sleeping at the council room this night. Good grief. They barely unlocked at the groin and she's back to playing games. Stay classy, love. I still owe a verdict whether this can be considered revenge against parental censoring from her dad or not. It's a stretch, but I think it is. It's not coming right after a clash it was with the dad like the first time, but it's not that far from another one happening right there in the council room. Like a true Cosmo reader, she decided to mark her entrance into young adult life by seeking pleasure in the arms of her lover. It's not her first time, but damn if it doesn't feel premeditated. I'd give her an 8 out of 10 for remembering this was supposed to be enjoyable for both, and showing that she can amend her style if she thinks it's worth it. There's a way of interpreting Shizune's behavior that covers the lack of activity in certain aspects of non sequitur. Really early on, back in the days when Shizune was trying really hard to recruit Hisao, she and Misha barged into his room. Hisao frantically tried to hide his row of medicines, but the girls noticed and pried into the matter. He barely managed to dodge the question, but, like Misha implied when Hanako dropped by the council room, the student council has access to private data. If Shizune wanted to know, and I guess she did after Emi ran into Hisao and caused him some heart pains, she had the means. It is reasonable to suspect Shizune became more careful with Hisao from that point on. While they were making the stall for Tanabata, she kept an eye on him for signs of unnatural fatigue. Every now and then, she would remember it's dangerous to constrict his breathing, which would explain the stilted hug she gave him. Or maybe she really has a little practice with it. And while her love-making is impetuous and abrupt, she might still be searching his face for signs of pain or discomfort. That could explain why she instantly threw a faint after they finished their second act. Hisao was feeling a little heart pain and must have showed on his face. Shizune may be trying to distract him from gloomy thoughts. It's an interpretation that puts Shizune in a better light, but it's not fixing all the inconsistencies. This last part gave me a chuckle. P.S. What is Shizune's kinky theme? A quiet girl can be a tiger in bed. Now, to lengthen this video even more, and since this is technically the Misha path as well, it makes sense to insert some information about her. Let's take a look at Misha. I'm not looking to build an imaginary drama around Misha just to make her appear tragic or something. I'm just pointing out that she's manufactured a new persona for herself after her romantic failure. Pink hair, drill bangs. Hisao makes fun at some point about how she must be up at the crack of dawn to curl her hair every day. A loud voice and presence. She enters stage left just as loud as she speaks, pushing a wahaha in front of her. Constant cheerfulness. Hisao again, Misha is going through the motions because appearances are important to her, like her cheerfulness that isn't always real. Always curious and inquiring. The very last bit is entirely for Shizune's benefit because she can't pick up the chatter around her and nobody else is voluntarily including her in the small task that goes unnaturally. If that's not a mask, I don't know what is. And what is the purpose of a mask but to provide something you can hide behind? Something to prevent the other side from reading you. Can I also point out that most of her mask is transparent to Shizune because it involves things she cannot perceive or gauge? The hairstyling change is obvious. Shizune thinks it's sophisticated and imposing, so she clears up where she got the idea. The excessive laughter is highly visible, which is probably why she's always telling her something and gets brushed off with an audible, "Really, Shi-chan?" But does she ever sign this back to her? Otherwise, Misha is Misha, always there, always fulfilling her function as Shizune's voice and extra pair of hands. Whatever else the essential Misha is or thinks about is behind that mask. It takes a radical act to rip this mask off, and the right person, someone who also likes Misha, someone who's managed to communicate with her face-to-face, no concealing masks, who's precious to her. Yep, that's right. It's Hisao. The pairing of the girls, Emi with Rin, Lily with Hanako, Shizune with Misha, sends Hisao's life down a common set of events that branches depending on which girl he pursues. The other girl of the pair keeps crossing his path, but in lesser and lesser focus, until she becomes just another background character. To a lesser extent, you keep crossing paths with some of the other girls. I'm not counting Yuko, as she acts like a human fixture on all the paths. I mean something like running into Lily on the Shizune route, in the later half of her path. She's there to set a reflection point, an occasion for Hisao to see how Shizune and Misha changed his outlook on things, and to gather his resolve for the upcoming conflict. Equally, Hisao runs into Shizune and Misha on almost every single route. I guess Shizune is watching out for Hisao even when she isn't getting romantically involved with him, and so does Misha on her own. One of the facets of being an idolized character is having a write-in past. A character designed for the kind of interaction required by an Arose, or in general a VN, will have enough of a past to justify her status at the entry point and the established traits that place her in one of the usual suspect types. The energetic type, the klutz, the violent soon type, the stoic type, etc., or combinations thereof. There will be enough gaps and holes where the player can presume a past to his liking, or assign a personal coloring of the events from her past that are being offered. Some characters simply come as is. Their past doesn't factor in at all, or is being withheld on purpose. Kadoba Shoujo isn't exceptional in this regard. We have a range of depth of field about the girl's past that goes from fairly elaborate to spotty and indifferent. Misha draws the short end of the stick here too, because her past almost has no markers. She just came to Yamaku and started building from there. One of the things barely explained in KS is the social status of the girls before joining the special school. We know Shizune and Lily come from well-off related families. There's no mention, however, of what the status of Emi, Rin, or Hanako's family, and the only thing we know about Misha is that she could not have afforded the school as a normal student without enrolling in the sign language program. What we have is a lot of circumstantial data. The only people ever complaining about cash shortage are Hisao and Kenji. Shizune doesn't count. She's just skimpy with money. And Misha is probably on Shizune's tab as long as it's student council expenses. The one time we leave her to pay alone a 3-person bill, she's not complaining. But that may be irrelevant. With Shizune's idiosyncrasy about throwing things, Misha may in fact hold the council wallet. That still doesn't tell us about how well off or poor she is on her own. We receive a bare minimum of info about her, that she doesn't have a disability, that she enrolled at Yamaku only on the scholarship for sign language because she couldn't afford it otherwise, that she feared being hated at this new school, and that she burned the bridges behind her. 4chan had a field day. Make that a 4 years field day speculating what Misha's disability. Or what is Misha's disability. One of the frequent guesses was some sort of attention disorder or even Angelman syndrome, known as the Happy Puppet Syndrome. Nominally, she has none. Her apparent lack of thought continuity comes primarily from the long association with Shizune. She's too focused on the constant need to translate to sign everything she hears, says, and what Shizune is telling her to translate. It's really hard to both run your mouth and simultaneously translate it in sign. However, Hisao notices an interesting detail. Her voice doesn't so much modulate in tone with the speech pattern, as it increases and decreases in volume. She also has a slightly limited vocabulary, or at least not as extensive as Shizune's, which seems to be derived from reading books. Shizune puts in front of her complicated terms that she has to spell out for her literally. There's always the question, why was Misha afraid of the students at Yamaku might hate her? Because she's normal? Some of the students don't have visible defects, and no one seems to begrudge Muto, Yuko, or the head nurse their physical integrity. Hisao himself looks pretty normal on the outside, as does Shizune, and they aren't shunned for it. No, if she was afraid of being hated, it must have been that she was not so popular where she came from. And she's not regretting any of her old colleagues. That puts her directly in the outer belt of the new social group she encountered at Yamaku. Being seated next to Shizune was her stroke of luck. Her abilities at sign language were poor at first, and her drive just lukewarm. It was the Shizune juggernaut that propelled her to the current performance. In fact, she owes Shizune not just a place in the Yamaku universe and a professional ambition, but her friendship as well. Whatever shortcomings Shizune has, she plays lifeguard to a few people, yes, even Lily, whom she picks up, dusts them off, and sends them on the path to their own ambitions. Those who owe the most are those who hang around trying to pay her back in friendship and support, and I obviously mean Misha and Hisao. At first, Misha appears to be so integrated in the good cop, bad cop routine with Shizune that she hogs all the good traits of exuberance and femininity in the act, leaving Shizune with all the butch and dominant traits. Hisao is left wondering how did they come up with such an act, so he inquires the talkative Misha about the roots of their relationship. It's one of the first times Misha talks about a script penned by talks outside a script penned by Shizune, so she does a spontaneous thing. She thanks Hisao for joining the council, something Shizune clearly forgot to do. Then she offers him the PR version of how she came to befriend Shizune, but it's a story with several white lies. There's an interesting parallel between the story she gives Hisao in the beginning and the real story that surfaces after she drops her mask. In the beginning, she's Shizune's first aide and sidekick, confident and only a little self-conscious. Toward the end, she's the real Misha, candid and vulnerable, worried about her complicated relationship with Shizune becoming unraveled. It's a huge contrast, not just in terms of who approached who, but also in terms of confidence invested in Hisao. Cutting her signature drills is an anime trope jokingly called character development. A character seeks a radical change of self-image by altering his outer appearance. It's an arbitrary, self-imposed new beginning when the old ways don't work anymore. Misha just didn't feel the new atmosphere developing between Shizune and Hisao, but she went into open rebellion against Shizune by dropping something inspired by the latter, her peculiar haircut. She's still Shizune's trooper and everything else, hanging out with her, running errands for her father, and stepping voluntarily into the verbal crossfire between Jigoro and Hisao, to allow the latter a narrow escape with Shizune. We already know how that episode ended, but all this while, Misha's been pulling away from Shizune and Hisao with mincing steps, feeling more and more confused. I mean, why would she run away from Hisao like that? There's only one thing that really changed between them, and that's his newly acquired status as Shizune's fuck buddy. This is the origin of Misha's apparent breakdown that culminated in seeking consolation in Hisao's arms. In a sense, it's good news. Shizune has found a new best friend, one can both converse in sign language with her, help with the council work, and help keeping her entertained and or sexually satisfied. That's, in fact, one more item than Misha ever managed to do, and not for want of trying. By accepting Hisao in this position, Shizune has basically decommissioned Misha, who is now free to pursue her own objectives, kept on the back burner by the overriding objectives imposed by Shizune. It's a little more liberty than Misha can handle at first. She has to shuffle priorities back to her own career plans, and that means facing some facts about the future. Unfortunately, this future holds the grim perspective of graduation and venturing into the real world without her two closest friends. With dawning horror, Misha understands that their time together is drawing to an end, and she has to resolve her sentimental conflict with both as soon as possible. If she wants to stay their friend, what's tearing her inside is the knowledge that they've grown closer to each other, and any attempt to come between them would probably hurt them both, but especially Shizune. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. Hisao seems to be her only friend besides Shizune. Most people tolerate her, but she hasn't connected with anyone the way Hisao did. Despite trying her best to treat everyone as nice as she could, well, she's the mouth of an abrasive and mossy mistress. She's just getting the hostile fallout for Shizune's overbearing behavior, but she's also collecting some resentment for her own busybody attitude. Since no one gets close enough to her to actually know better, she's judged at face value as disruptive, noisy, and intrusive. Also, a little witless. Without Hisao's better perspective on her, we judge her the same way. so she really doesn't have anyone else to turn to in her hour of distress. But that doesn't make it right. Hisao is Shizune's boyfriend. No amount of twisting perspective around can justify the negative impact of her action. She didn't come to have the heart-to-heart conversation they eventually had on the roof. That would have been quite okay for both, even helpful. No, she came to forge the love triangle that connected her to Shizune, Shizune to Hisao, and now Hisao to her. It's just that human relationships don't work this way. When Hisao came after her on the roof, he didn't do it because of lust of some form of sexual imprinting. He came out of friendly concern. Their one-off encounter really achieved nothing positive, just a lot of negative baggage to lug around for the rest of the route. Poor Misha. Despite being a likable girl, all her flags are negative. Getting her in bed is not challenging, it just happens. She is cute, but comparatively plain, a regular girl in almost all aspects, except perhaps her sexual orientation. Not idealized and posing a crisis that cannot be solved, just avoided in a rather hacked manner, i.e. the player's actions don't do shit anyway. It's all a matter of not betraying Misha on her nominal route. And there's no emotional payoff after boning her, just descent into slowly setting futility. It's one of the reasons I don't like the Shizune route as a game route, despite liking it for the character development. It's a cool story, bro, but as a game sequence, it sucks. And while I'm at it, the scriptwriter really went overboard with making Misha talk in circles exactly like Shizune. Is that supposed to be beating around the bush? Anyway, yet another anime trope was sneaked in at this point. Are you thinking something perverted? If it's you, I don't mind. You know what? That's believable. At 3 separate points, starting with this one, Misha tries to find out if Hisao likes her, as in like, not as in like to bang. He keeps his mouth wisely shut in public, but his inner monologue says yes. As the last technical detail, this isn't about Hisao not wanting to bang Misha, or Misha keeping back until he signals it's okay. This is about Hisao refraining from banging Misha, which has already kissed and nuzzled him. Even though he has to kick her out of bed, almost literally, the whole scene has the interesting effect of making Misha drop the act, or mask as I called it. It takes a wholly different kind of trust to get in a situation like this one and not wreck your friendship with the person who rejected you. If the friendship holds, then it's safe to drop all of the bullshit. From here on, Misha will be telling the truth and nothing but the truth. She was alone at first until Shizune made her priority task to befriend her. At that time, Shizune was still using pen and notebook to communicate, but she found out Misha was learning sign language, so she refused to use them anymore until Misha could talk to her directly. When Shizune got drafted into the old student council, she brought Misha along, and Lily. Then the old council graduated and Lily left. I'm not a trained SEAL, and all those accusations of dragging in only people who would agree with Shizune, and the council started dwindling down to its two-girl team. Meanwhile, a blossoming Misha fell in love with Shizune and one day gathered her courage to confess. Shizune turned her down, and Misha bummed out of the council, thinking it's all over between them. But Shizune wouldn't let her be, and kept searching her out until she could pass her the important message, "Come back, you're still my friend." From that day on, Misha became Shizune's most loyal aide, sticking with her through thick and thin, until Hisao came to their class. Then, Shizune got a new pet project, and it was fun getting him to rally both to the student council and to the fun things in life in general. But one thing led to another, and now Hisao was Shizune's boyfriend, which left Misha feeling stranded alone on orbit around them. Misha tried deserting them, hating them, betraying them. None of these things stuck because, in simplicity, Misha is all about love, not hate. Finding her place again in their three-way team meant finding a place where she could be her own person again. She went the wrong way about it, but in the end she made it, because both her friends wouldn't let go. And now, I believe I've said all I need to say about this arc. So, next time we meet, we will begin the Hanako arc. Be ready to feel. So, until next time, I am Reckoning, you are the viewer. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up or favorite, and if it isn't too much of a trouble, leave me a comment telling me what I can improve on. See you guys then.